G'day, Charlie McGee here. I'm at the home of Permaculture co-originator David Holmgren, Melliodora, and we are using edges and valuing the marginal today, harvesting olives up on the road reserve.
Yeah, this is pretty much the first real harvest that there's been on these trees. They were only planted in 2014 when this road was built, so we sort of did them along the edge. Of course, it's all public land here. Of any fruiting tree, they really want to be in the bright sun. Of course, they come from the Mediterranean, and if they grow in a sort of a food forest like some of our older ones are, they just get leaves on the top and don't have any leaves or fruit on the side. The olive really wants to be in full sun, so it's not really the ideal species for a dense food forest system, and that's why we've let these trees go up and up so they stay in the sun, but it means the olives are hard to harvest. But here they can be in the sun. They have the beautiful reflected heat off the road because we're in a pretty cool place, you know, and actually this year was so cool that the olives are not going to the sort of black stage, really. They're mostly green. And of course, it's just a matter of getting the bitterness out of them. And the green olive's got a lot more bitterness in, so needs a lot more of the stripping out with either fresh water or brine. You know, there's all different ways of doing it. And the riper the olives are, the less.
This is cool climate behaviour generally, because the green olives, when they're not ripened, sometimes they don't ripen if you've got a season that doesn't give you enough heat. Like it seems at the minute our olives are not super ripe, so we're in a cool temperate climate. But if we're over in South Australia, you might do your olives in a different way. People can just get their super ripe olives that are black, and you can salt them, dry salt them if you wish. They dry really beautifully, and the flavour is really maximum because that's given to you by the sun ripening. Whereas these, you actually have to add the flavour in. So basically we're pitting them, taking the pits out. You bang the bottle on top of the olive and that splits it, and then you can very easily get the pips out. Then you place them in water, abundant water, for 10 days to 3 weeks. These olives don't keep very long, so you're there for fresh eating. So you do actually, like a salad, you would put in fennel seeds, garlic, olive oil, red wine vinegar and good sea salt, all to taste. So basically you're making a bit of a salad out of that. That'll keep in the fridge for 3 weeks to a month, and they're very delicious. I would add also other herbs, oregano or thyme. You can also put in cloves, so there are lots of things you do that to taste. Chilies are a nice addition as well. The other olives that we're doing at the moment, 10% brine covering the olives, and then you put them away for a year. That's the easiest method with your black olives, and then that's your keeping method. So after a year, you can then take them out, and you can also dress them up like you might do these ones too, to make them super delicious with your chili, your garlic and your herbs, and a little. You probably don't need any salt, you just need your nice red wine vinegar.
The thing is, of course, you know, olive trees are a great tree to have, you know, like as a street tree or a tough location where you don't irrigate, so they're really good as a component in sort of backyard systems, but you're never going to get enough olives to get olive oil.
For those of you who only have a small tree or a couple of trees, this is the way to go, is
and pickling olives.
Pickling your own olives.
Yeah. Olives featured in my Aussie Street story as the Italians down the end of the street who had the grove out in the front garden, but that then it got ring-barked by the
Hungry goats.
But of course the tree will still re-sprout from the base even after that. But in the story, Mario actually poisoned the stump because his wife Angela was complaining that the kids didn't help picking the olives. But even after he poisoned the stump, one of the trees grew back.
That's right.
In the Mediterranean, in a lot of places, that is the firewood. Because olives do grow in this vigorous way, and you don't have to fuss about are you pruning it in the right way. They're so tough, they can be cut. Well, you can actually cut an olive off at ground level and it'll just re-sprout like a lot of eucalypts will from the base. In fact, you can see shoots coming from the base of the tree, and those ones started to come up and might fruit again because we've now cut some other trees out of this sun side here. This locust tree, for example, was really large and it had some disease problems and died back. So this olive is starting to be a bit more productive. Whereas the locust is actually really happy to grow in a rainforest jungle and still produce fruit in the shade. So there's lots of other subtropical evergreens that are good like that, like macadamia, white sapote, avocado. But in our cold climate, there's not many species that manage to do that grow in the shade. Like feijoas and locusts are the most common ones. Think of them as those species that come from especially subtropical forests where often the flowering and the fruiting is actually under the canopy. And we could just go and have a look at our 20-year-old macadamia, which has struggled through the frosts each year. And as we're getting global warming, and our climate has definitely been warming over the last 20 years, the macadamias are growing better. There's this little one here. See, it's growing in the shade of the olive and the feijoas there, but it will grow up. And this one is 20 years old, and the nuts are really hard to see. You can see some here. They grow in under the canopy. And that's a characteristic of a lot of subtropical and tropical things, whereas a lot of our deciduous winter dormant fruit trees, all the apples and pears and plums, all of those flower on the outer canopy, and even though they come from cool climates, they don't like the shade on the canopy. Whereas a lot of these subtropical things, avocados are similar. They're happy to be crowded together. They don't get fungal diseases. They actually like that environment. That being said, you can see if we come around this side of the tree, we're really in the jungle now, and look at the feijoa crop that's here, bearing in the shade. But nevertheless, our macadamia, our little macadamia, until a few years ago, was sort of one-sided because these feijoas were growing so strongly here and it was so dense that even the macadamia wasn't happy to sort of produce on this side. So now, given we have 200 kilos of feijoas and we'd much rather have more macadamias, we're cutting the feijoa back, hacking that back, and that will allow the macadamia to grow out in that little bit of extra light that's on that side. Great. So from olives to food forest.